Good morning. It's almost 8:30 and we're about to get underway. I expect today is going to be a lot like yesterday. The forecast is for strong winds. We're going to go from here in Seal Bay through the Pine Island Thorofare and over to Clam Cove. So the same trip we did on the second to the last day on the last trip. It just puts us in the right place. So we'll try to get some footage along the way, hopefully scenic footage, but there probably won't be much talking during the day. You're probably tired of hearing me talk anyway. So I've gotten smart today as opposed to yesterday, and starting off, we've got the pop top down, and the bimini in its boot, I think it's called. It's all wrapped up, less windage, and we may put the bimini down on the cabin top to reduce windage even further. It's kind of in the way at this point of pulling up the anchor. So which is the next step? We've got the outboard idling, get it all warmed up. We've got the tiller pilot ready to go. And actually I have a checklist. I got a new checklist program because I always would forget something like making my lunch. So I've made my lunch. All the checks are checked. So off we go. Well, there's a plan that didn't work. We did not make it to Clam Cove. We'll take a look at the chart later. It's 12:30, and we are in Seal Cove, not to be confused with Seal Bay, where we were last night, but not very far away either. So we did come around, go through the Fox Islands Thorofare, and tried to get out into Penobscot Bay at the west end, and couldn't make it. There'll be a chart later and I'll go into more detail, but right at the moment we're anchored, hopefully safely. I got a lot of scope out, and we need to eat lunch. So it's now around 20 minutes of 4, and we've been whiling away the afternoon, hiding out in the cabin. We got the pop top enclosure up. That was a chore. Which does block the wind pretty effectively. You can hear that, I hope. So the wind has kept up. The anchor is holding. That's the newer anchor, the 22-pound, 10-kilo Rockna that I bought to supplement the Manson Supreme 15-pound. You know, and I thought I would only use the heavier Rockna as a storm anchor, so it would have been used today regardless. But I found, especially up here in Maine, where the consequences of dragging often mean banging into big rocks. I'm finding I'm using it pretty much all the time, which is fine. It's I suppose a little harder to pull up than a 15-pound anchor, but what's that, 7 pounds? It's not a big deal. So, but now I've got the lighter anchor in reserve. Well, there isn't room for 2 of the heavy anchors up there. Anyway, I better show you the chart and tell the story, what there is, before I forget. Not surprisingly, since we didn't go very far today, everything is on one chart. So here we have Seal Bay, where we spent last night, about here. And we left bright and early this morning. The wind was just starting to pick up when we left, when we brought up the anchor. And I had a little scare there. I got the anchor up, and then reached for the control on the outboard to put it in gear, and it immediately stalled. And so it took me all of about 3/4 of a second, I think, to realize obviously the thing I needed to do is re-drop that anchor, which I did, let out a bit of scope, restarted the motor. It started immediately. I tested it, putting it in the gear, and it didn't stall again. So pulled the anchor back up and off we went. That's never happened before that I can recall. But anyway, any landing you can walk away from. So we made our way out of Seal Bay into Winter Harbor and out and around, keeping close to shore because the wind was picking up all this time this was happening. Came across Clam Cove. Again, we took the southerly route here to try to get some shielding from the wind, and came around. By this point, the wind was, I'm guessing, full force, whatever that is. I didn't have time to drag out the anemometer. Came down past the town of Vinalhaven, and in here things were fairly calm because it was getting pretty effectively blocked by this land mass here, the southwest breeze. But you come out over here, and of course you're in the open, and the wind picked up and swells picked up, and I got out just past these little islands here, sugar loaves, and I found I could barely keep the boat pointed into the wind. If I fell off one side or the other, it was a mighty struggle with my 8 horsepower engine maxed out to get back. So I decided that was not going to work. So I turned around and came back and found refuge down here in Seal Cove, which I had hoped would give me good shelter from the wind. But it's not really all that effective, and I'm guessing it's because, as you might be able to tell from the contours, the land in through here is not very high, so the wind is just whipping through there. But there's no waves or anything, so well, we'll hang out here tonight. We'll take a look at what we're going to attempt tomorrow. So here again is the Fox Islands Thorofare, and there's those sugar loaves that we didn't get past today. So tomorrow we're going to try to come out down around this buoy and pretty much due west. It's about 6 miles across to the entrance into Rockland Harbor, and the boat ramp is over in this area. So the forecast for tomorrow at the moment calls for somewhat diminished winds for tomorrow, but not as much as I'd like. So the plan as far as it exists, is to get up early, well before sunrise, and get ready to go so I can start moving as soon as there's enough light to navigate. And the general theory behind this is that it's pretty frequent that the very early morning hours are relatively calm. So we're kind of playing the odds there a little bit. I mean, we may wake up in the morning and find conditions completely different, and the plans will change, of course. But that's you got to have a tentative plan anyway. So that's it. I suppose just to be complete here, I'll go do a panorama of the anchorage, so you can get an idea of what it looks like. It's going to be difficult for a couple of reasons. Well, once again, there's way too much wind for me to talk through it. Second, the boat is dancing around, so that'll make things interesting. Third, I have been using the gimbal, the DJI Osmo gimbal, to do this sort of thing, to steady things, but I've discovered the gimbal really cannot handle really strong wind gusts, so I'm going to have to do this by hand, so things will probably be a little shakier, but I'm sure we'll take the current conditions into account. So just a couple of notes about what you just saw, I hope. One is that it is pretty much exactly dead low tide. So those rocks that are about where I started and ended, which are pretty much due north of me, are covered at low tide, at high tide. But there's about 8 feet or so sticking up. At the moment, I haven't put up my sun guard because it's too windy, so I'm sitting in the wrong place. Let's see. The second thing is that those 3 wind generators are the same ones that I hope showed up in the video for our first night. They're just across the way. There's only 3 on Vinalhaven Island, but they're visible from lots of places. Well, tonight for dinner, while we're losing our light here, we have chili mac, which was a dehydrated backpacking style meal, and we've got a glass of wine.